grab a notepad, pen, a note-taking app, whatever. Let's sit down for this one and truly listen to what Jasna has to say. This episode is packed from the very, very beginning, exploring what the talent acquisition role truly is. Here's what we've got coming up for you.
I would say really setting up expectations and everything straight from the beginning and making that agreement with the hiring manager and then communicating it like that to candidate and really trying to follow that process during the hiring process. If needed, again, a bit of educating, reminding hiring managers. Not everyone enjoys doing that. Yes, they need people for their team, but they don't want to get involved with the processes. So you also somehow need to support them on that part. I believe that we will need to connect more as a community and support each other. It's happening now, but it will be more, I see, in the future. So I still believe that we will be mediators and still keeping, companies' interests and needs and be like someone who promotes culture and bring something new there. But we can do it only if we are also motivated to learn and grow personally.
Jasna started her career as an intern. She's then developed herself mostly towards psychology, mental health, over the last decade in the TA function. She's a phenomenal character. She brings so much to the conversation where we explore how her role started and how it's evolved, how talent teams should focus on quality, even in the process of stretched out teams, short budgets, leadership, maybe when they're not listening. And we also kind of hypothesize what the future is going to look like. This is a real deep dive into our role. This is a conversation that if you're unsure where we are right now as an industry, this is it. This is the confirmation that either this is the right industry for you, or maybe time to get out. Just saying. But thank you so much for listening. As always, hopefully you've got that notepad ready and you enjoy what Jasna has to share. Welcome to Tea Time with Talent Acquisition, the podcast aimed at fostering knowledge and sharing stories within the vibrant talent acquisition community. I'm your host, Eden, and for the next hour or so, I'm going to be joined by a dedicated talent acquisition partner who began her journey in this field as an intern in 2016, where she was originally tasked to connect with 50 people per day, but nearly a decade on, she's built out her expertise from the ground up, with a strong focus, particularly towards psychology and mental health in the workplace. Along the way, she's earned certifications in NLP and mental health first aid, and her career reflects a deep interest in the evolving role of what talent professionals are, not only analysing its progression during her tenure, but also anticipating its future developments. So when you're ready, grab your favourite tea or coffee if you prefer, and join me in welcoming today's guest, the Senior Talent Acquisition Partner at CellerX, Jasna. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks a lot for having me here, Eden.
I appreciate it. Like I said, from that introduction, the topic of today about the evolving nature of our position is so much to unpack. But I'm curious, we always like to start each episode with like a teaser, as it were. Sometimes it's relevant to what we do, so the topic of conversation, sometimes a little bit out of scope, but I think this one is. So the question for this season is, what do you feel makes a high-performing talent team?
Well, as mentioned, it is our role is evolving a lot, and therefore teams. And it's nowadays it's still a really it's harder and harder to measure it. What is a high-performing team in a fluctuating market? But I would say first team that collaborates. Team that's focused on quality, team that's able to optimize processes even when things are changing or falling apart, teams that are following data and paying attention to data and that are constantly educate themselves. So I feel that if all of these conditions are fulfilled, you need to perform well. doesn't matter what are the external circumstances. That is something that I'm seeing currently.
I think that's quite an interesting observation of, and linked quite nicely to your conversation there about the evolving nature of our job. Because when you sent me that message about, as an intern, you was tasked to send 50 messages a day, the definition of what a successful talent team 10 years ago, when I also first started, I would imagine we probably shared quite a similar definition. It was pretty much get people in process, hire. That was a definition of success at that point. But obviously, as the years have rolled on, we've expanded our scope, we've expanded the responsibilities. And now, as you talk about data analytics, you're talking about obviously process, you're talking about obviously the sourcing is still the element in there as well. But there's all these different components that need to work together for us to be successful.
I agree. It definitely changed a lot. I can see that from my journey, and I can say that talking with friends or colleagues from the field, it is similar. So earlier, it was really focused on hire, bring the people over the table. Then I guess basic needs were needed to be fulfilled. Once you fulfill basic needs, like, okay, you have a hire, then slowly you can start thinking about processes, quality. But in my opinion, something that changed actually, I guess during the COVID and also moving a bit to remote work, I guess is that more personal touch. So yes, we are focusing more on data and quality of hire, but I guess personal touch and meeting candidates in person is not happening anymore. I remember that period when I used to send 50 messages per day. Everyone who I was interviewing, they were coming in the office for the first interview, and that was also different feeling and different connections. So it was something. So focus was shifting a lot in the last years. So some things for better, some things for worse, I would say.
Well, I'm going to come back to what's better and worse, but I'm curious to say, when we're recording this, it's 2024. Whenever someone's listening to it, but when we're recording, it's August 2024. So, in your opinion, what do you believe at its core the role of a talent acquisition professional really is today?
Today, I feel it is definitely being advocate and mediator between business and candidates. I think that is something how it's imagined from the very beginning, but it was fluctuating from just being a sourcer, recruiter, then to a business partner. And I think now we are really somewhere in between. We need to constantly pay close attention to business needs and try to fulfill that needs, but then again bring like good candidate experience, find the right fit for a candidate and company. So it's been definitely advocate of company's culture, but then again bringing something to and giving something to candidate. I really like to believe that our role is still on its core something really human and empathic, where we need to support people to find the best job and hope with the hope that our company is the best place for them. So I want to believe that is what it is still today, and that will not change even if market is changing.
And as you said, like sourcing into business partner, now we've kind of gone back into somewhere in between. Why do you feel we've kind of come I don't say come back a little bit, but I think there's this big question mark around what the TA partners should be business partners, and I personally actually think they should. I think anyone who's not positioned themselves as a business partner is missing something in our role. So why do you feel that we're kind of in between at the moment?
Yep, because we still need to do a lot of tasks that are really operational tasks and hands-on tasks, like sourcing, doing interviews, optimizing processes. So really being hands-on, but we also need to provide strategic guidance. So we are the ones who need to monitor data, to go with that data to hiring teams, influence their opinions, educate them. So that already goes a bit into business partnering role, because as mentioned, we need to take care of business needs. How we do it, we have our own way. It is still different in business partner role, but we are playing big part in it.
You use the phrase fluctuating markets. I think you said it 2 or 3 times now. So obviously we are in a fluctuating market. We had this boom in terms of hiring on the back end of COVID. We're now in this low in terms of hiring,
Yes.
several years on, and things seem like they're getting better, but future Eden is going to determine whether or not they are actually getting better. Let's see. But when we talk about fluctuating markets, why is it important that, I guess, we as talent professionals, we stay focused, we know what our role is, we, that needs to be kind of like the element of us where we know what we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned earlier, if we really go away a lot from what our core work is, I think we can easily get swept away with the changes that are happening. So, and also maybe start being frustrated by the work that we are doing. Does it make sense? Are we making impact? I think that these are the questions that we are all having on a daily basis. But I think there will always be a need to, find the right company for the right candidate and find right candidates for the company. So I really believe if we stay focused somehow and stay aware what our role brings to the company, what it brings to the candidates, it will not change a lot for us. Yes, we will have to adjust to the market. We will have to adjust to the external conditions, and it's not just us. I guess every company and every employee, but in the core role doesn't have to change. So we will just have to embrace that change actually, and maybe go a bit more with a growth mindset in this.
I love this conversation in the sense of a lot of what we talk about in this podcast is upskilling certain parts of the talent acquisition job. But I really like the fact that on here and with yourself, it's actually reinforcing what our job is. And, hopefully the listeners are following on thinking, okay, these are points that, maybe I should start taking more note of, or actually it's reinforcing to them, okay, I am where I need to be. When we did kind of the preparation for this, you also mentioned things about quality and, how quality is potentially impacted by the fluctuations when there's extreme conditions of hiring versus when there's periods when there's not a lot of hiring. So how can we actually accomplish quality-led processes, quality-led hiring? We all want to strive to that. When, first of all, we're, as a talent team, stretched thin. And I think I take the current scenario where a lot of talent teams have been scaled back. They've had more, I don't want to say opportunities. They've had more pressure piled onto them. Employer branding falls under their remit now. Business processes fall under them now. There's the TA role has just evolved tremendously. But as you say, our core is still hiring people as well. So how do we keep that quality when we are really stretched?
Yes, that is also happening very often nowadays, as you mentioned.
It's the balance.
Well, that's what I mentioned earlier. We definitely need to not just accept, but adapt to changes that are happening. I can see that in my role, at the moment, we are, for example, small team, and we need to start doing a bit of employer branding, low-hanging fruit employer branding, get more involved in the analytics, because there are no dedicated people analytics teams. So definitely you need to learn more, you need to stretch yourself, but as you mentioned, we need to focus on quality. How we can focus on it, I guess, simply somehow utilize processes or at least keep them streamlined, not maybe making it too complex, but at least something that can ensure a fair and nice candidate experience. Clear explanation of processes in the call, educating hiring managers. Okay, maybe sometimes they can support with some interviews if they are aligned. When company is smaller, I think it's even easier.
Yeah.
Monitor the most important data there and try to keep that on top. And then I think there are no problems. And when you have then bigger team, you can think about other things and maybe focus on other details. But basically, streamline processes, educated hiring managers, and also constant need to grow in a role and to take on some tasks that maybe you are not really educated for, but still you can learn a lot in the process.
Do you think this should come down from the leader of that team pushing it onto their team? So a head of TA or director of TA or whatever.
Mm.
Or do you think this should be the talent acquisition professionals themselves recognizing actually we can try and solve something here? Because then it comes down
Yes.
to it's not my job. I don't think people think like this, and people who listen to podcasts and specifically this one, I don't think they fall into that category. However, then we're moving into the quiet quitting aspect of, well, I don't get paid for that.
Exactly. Yes, it's above my pay grade. I know what you, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So where should this be driven by?
Yes, it is a tough question, and I think there is no easy answer. So it all I guess it all in the end depends what you want to get from what are you getting from a role. Maybe at some moments you are in the position where it works well for you to try out some different things to learn more. Maybe if you're starting talent acquisition specialist, you will of course be more motivated to take over more things and learn. If you're more senior, I guess motivation is to come from different direction, recognition as well. Therefore, it all depends who's your manager.
Yeah.
So what manager brings on table. I believe that we should always strive for new learnings and growth. But of course, if it's coming, on a cost of our mental health, and it's definitely more than what we can take, then there needs to be some discussion and direction from a leadership team. Yeah, that is my opinion, but it's not easy in the current market when I think a lot of teams are stretched. So
yeah, and that was kind of the thought process when I was asking it, is that I hear firsthand, although I'm an external recruiter, I speak to a lot of talent teams and I hear it, I see it when I do video calls with them. It's not easy. For me, it's quite transparent. If I don't want to work with a company, I can quite easily not work with the company. But when you're employed by them, you need to make it work. You need to find a solution until you find something else. So I can see firsthand that people are approaching, if not living, in burnout scenarios. And as much as we want the quality, and as much as we believe it's our job to get that quality, sometimes it's just not possible. At least I'm seeing it's just not possible.
I agree.
Do you think there's any moments where we need to choose one part of the aspect of the process more so? Should we choose to have a quality sourcing approach over a quality hiring process? Again, the ideal world is that everything is 10 out of 10. However, the ideal doesn't exist, and I don't care what someone tells me. Things happen. Hiring managers change processes. Candidates sourcing experience drops. Whatever happens, right? It's never a 10 out of 10 process. We strive for it, but it doesn't exist. So, from your side, coming back to the core role of a recruiter or talent acquisition professional, what should we have as a bare minimum or the standard that we should be focusing on quality perspective wise in that process?
I would always go for a good candidate experience. So whatever is the situation in the market, providing good and fair and transparent candidate experience, I think it will never go old. And like, because we are working with people, these people are people that we might contact again tomorrow when market is better. We don't want to stay in a bad memory. So I think trying to provide that and trying to provide a fair process, even if maybe you cannot hire someone, if companies cutting costs and you cannot provide a good offer, still, like, they can remember company as in a good manner. So I would go with that, and that is actually because that is from where our role also started. We need to hire people for the company, so focusing on that human touch, and then later on trying to have a streamlined process. And again, it also depends on what is the company need. If company's objective is to cut costs, maybe at some moment you will not be focused that much on quality, but more on quantity and cheapest candidates out there. It's also not nice to say, but you know what I mean. And if focus is different, then if you can provide, if you're hiring less but 3 really good candidates, then you can also bring other aspects in the process, like important ones. So
I think though, even if you're hiring on mass, I agree. By the way, I think the process should be nailed down. But even if you're hiring on mass or a one-off hire, process should be nailed down. I get frustrated when random tasks get added in or random interviews get added in, and it wasn't transparent. And I see it on LinkedIn. You doom scroll and you see more stories. And I have it in some of my clients' processes. You do it once, then fine, but you do it after that, it gets a bit frustrating. But we're all adults. I think that's also the thing that companies and recruiters and TA professionals just all need to understand. Everyone's an adult, and candidates, all they want is to know where they are. You tell them where they are, they don't mind. If you take an extra week to give feedback, it's fine. So I fully agree. Our role is recruitment. We need to nail that process down. And once you've got that down, then expand out from there. But we're talking peer to peer, right? So
yes,
leadership.
I just wanted to say that to hiring managers.
That's what I'm coming on to. So leadership, right? So how can we get them to be aware that we need to focus on that when everything needs to be done yesterday? Because they don't know how to use the system correctly, or they don't know how to, make a requisition correctly, or they don't know what the budgets were, or I don't know. You know 1,001 examples. So we know what we want, but how do we get them to give us the flexibility and the time to make that happen?
Again, training them, educating them from the very beginning. What I like to do is that from the very beginning, somehow make process and expectations set up correctly, at least that we align on the process and that very first kickoff meeting and the requirements, and try to get from them as much as I can, so I don't have to go out there in the woods and not sure what I'm looking for. So basically be really clear on the budget, really clear on the process scope of each interview. Again, it's an ideal world. In 90% of time, it's possible. There are 10% where you can do your best, but you cannot really make some people follow the processes. So I would say really setting up expectations and everything straight from the beginning, and making that agreement with the hiring manager, and then communicating it like that to candidate, and really trying to follow that process during the hiring process. If needed, again, a bit of educating, reminding hiring managers. Not everyone enjoys doing that. Yes, they need people for their team, but they don't want to get involved in the processes. So we also somehow need to support them on that part. So that is how I'm doing it since the beginning of my career. But as mentioned, it's not always possible. And second aspect is Yeah, sorry. Second aspect is if things are not working out, then bringing data and we need to bring data. I think at the very beginning of our careers, it was not that relevant. Thanks God we have it now, and it's also easily accessible where they can see what is going on with the pipelines, and I think they all like to see it in numbers.
Yeah.
Better than just listening to you explaining them what they should do, and I think it also plays a big factor.
Yeah, I was going to say we do the same, by the way. We qualify the roles, and then we send a follow up and say, look, what did we miss? So then they've got it in writing, we've got it in writing. This is what the process will look like. And then if we deviate from the process, there needs to be a bloody good reason as to why we're deviating. Because you agreed to me 2 weeks ago this was what was happening. Circumstances, we understand. You might need to add an extra process in, but it shouldn't be consistent. It should be the exception. And you're absolutely right. 10 years ago when I first started as well, data was we didn't do it at all. You just sent CVs, you got feedback. We didn't try
Yeah.
to. We do post-mortem reviews here. So if a process goes well or bad, we really tear it apart. What happened? Why? Not to blame anyone, but to understand what we can learn from, and that's the data behind it to help us in the future. But before it was just like CVs rejected. Okay, move on. Next one. Different world, I guess, of recruitment back then.
Yes, definitely.
But I do think with mass hiring, that falls probably more into that 10% element where you can't get everything up front. I think when you're doing real specialized, specific roles, you need to have these conversations with your hiring managers. Otherwise,
Yes,
you are just, it's never going to work, in my opinion.
I agree. And sometimes you also need to adjust processes. But as
Yeah,
one
of
of my colleagues would say, just document everything. Documenting everything is really
over
key.
communicate.
Yes.
I really hope that
Yes.
people who listen to this have either opened up the app on their phone, if they're listening on their phone, and making notes, or they've got a notepad, because this is
Yes.
perfect in terms of what I think textbook recruitment really should be done properly. Like over communicating is the most important thing when you're hiring with somebody, because they can never then come back to you and say, I didn't know. Actually, on this date we had this conversation. This is what we spoke about.
Exactly.
It's not it's not like to try and prove you wrong, but it's to say, no, I'm and this is the business partner. It's like, no, like this is what we're focusing on. So I
Yes.
love that. Your colleague is absolutely right.
Yes.
You mentioned obviously changes in our field.
Mm.
And I think probably the biggest shift, shall we say, has been AI. Or I don't want to say, yeah, okay, AI. We'll say it's AI. It's more accessible, shall we say?
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's better for our jobs, but it's become more accessible with generative AI, with all these new tools that are currently going to make things better. I don't know. We use a few, but I'm still yet to see anything that's like groundbreaking. So with the popularity of AI growing,
Yes.
where do you see its impact in the TA field?
Well, I mean, I feel that impact is already there. I realized lately that when I'm watching job descriptions, just on LinkedIn, and sometimes I want to compare. I realize that basically every second job description is written by AI. You can easily
Oh, it's
see
ridiculous.
it.
It's
It
ridiculous.
is.
You can see it a mile away. You really can
Yes.
tell.
Yes.
Okay, it's good. I'm
So.
not the only one.
So basically that is from where we started. I assume that it's used a lot. I mean, for interviews like a MetaView and the other tools, it is out there, and there is a big fear that probably these tools will replace some of our tasks. I want to believe that they will not really replace us, but maybe complement our work and make it easier, make it simpler, and maybe like for some operational tasks, support us so we can focus maybe on more strategic things and quality of hire and optimizing processes and things like that you never somehow have time besides with operational tasks. So, but we will definitely have to live with it. And let's see if it's going to be a wave, or this wave is going to change and shape in the next years. But it's out there, and I guess there is no coming back. So
Yeah, I mean, I saw a statistic the other day because I was doing some research into Germany and its AI scene. Apparently, 36% of startups that were founded last year were AI-focused startups, which is
yes,
monumentally large in comparison to the previous years. I think it is a wave. I
yes,
think there's a lot of hype behind it. And like I said, I'm still yet to see any tools that are pretty groundbreaking. I think you mentioned MetaView, if I'm correct. Is that the tool that does your notes for you as you're talking?
yes, for
Yeah. So
interviews and then note taking. We wanted to try it as a team, but I guess we are still not sure.
so my own perspective, so we have a tool that
Okay,
similar sort of product. We had a sharp decline in people wanting to speak to us. So
really?
these are people that we book calls in with, and so we do a lot of calls on Teams. So it connects to Teams, and it basically says Eden recording, or Eden recording, and then Eden. So the person joins, and immediately I have to either tell them in the invite, hey, we're going to record this so I can take notes.
Yes,
Then they sometimes reject it, or they join a call, starts recording, then I have to tell him, and then again, I've never had it. We trialed it for 2 weeks. I've never had it prior to that where I've had people join the call and then leave in a pretty much a decade of hiring, and in that 2 week period, a ridiculous amount of people, and then they was like, I don't want to be recorded, and this was into Germany, so I do know privacy and all that side of things. They're like, I don't want to be recorded. I don't want you to take. They know I take notes.
yes,
I have to take notes, but they didn't want it word for word because they didn't want it to be held against them if they said something in that moment. Again, think of it like a past
yes,
employer. In that moment, you're like, well, no, you're gonna know exactly what I said, how I said it, pretty much. It's like I don't want that, which I thought was quite interesting because that's the tool that. Not MetaView specifically, but that's the tool that a lot of people are pushing to their teams and saying, this is amazing. It is, but you can just make notes anyway, in my opinion.
exactly. And I can also tell you that a lot of my friends who are not in this field, but when they're having interviews for their jobs, they told me that when they get this as well, that they will be recorded, that there will be some AI thing there. They don't want to go on the interview.
There you go.
So, so I guess
It puts you at like a defense, thinking, I'm going to be
yes,
recorded, like they're going to know exactly what. And I find it doesn't make it authentic anymore.
yes. I agree, and I that's why I feel that even if AI is there, that human contact and person to person, one-on-one conversation cannot be replaced
Yeah.
that easily. So we all need someone that we can trust, in that process, and it is not a small thing going through process finding a job. So even if somehow sometimes it's made like, oh, it's just a job interview, no, it's not. It's your maybe future, it's your bills to pay. So of course that I want to talk with person, not with a robot today. So
I think
yeah.
I think this is kind of now segueing into what the future of our role looks like, and it kind of comes full circle here. Like we've explored what we've done, what we do today, why it's super important, how we can kind of create these blueprints for people to start, maybe when leadership isn't as supportive, or how do we get them on side. And like I said, now we're kind of seeing, I guess, somewhat into that future. So AI is the next wave for us. But the reason,
Yes.
and please correct me if I'm wrong, the reason you wanted to talk about this topic was based on, and again, please do correct me, I think this is right. It's based on people that are in our field, friends of yours, who have been discouraged slightly by AI and, what's been happening around us. And they're trying to now, after nearly a decade themselves, think, is it time to start something new? Which pains me to hear. Because these are like
Yes.
clearly specialists in our field that harbor so much knowledge, and to lose that would just be a shame for the entire community. So how can we, as TAs, lean into whatever change comes, be it AI, be it something else? How can we lean into that and become early adopters? Because TA as an industry always sucks at adopting things. Data isn't new, It's been around for years and years and years in the tech scene. We're just super slow to adopt to it. AI, we've been a little bit quicker. So hopefully in the future trend, we're better. How can we just say, look, I accept it, and then this is how I'm going to help myself lean into it more?
I think first, before it requires a lot of self-reflection, going and sitting with yourself and seeing, okay, is it really not all the work that I've done over the years, is it really for nothing? Like, will really this tool or crazy market make me go away? So I think it's a lot of personal decision, and I can see that a lot of our colleagues decided to change their career. And I mean, to be honest, our job is it is stressful at moments. You really need to work with a lot of people, and I guess you really need to find some huge personal satisfaction in it to endure changes and everything that we are going through. So sitting with yourself, deciding, is it worth? I really feel that we should not give away all the hard work that we've done so easily just because the market is changing. So, and once that decision is made, I think we need to, as I mentioned at the very beginning, embrace that change and accept and somehow expand mind and see, okay, I'm on this wave, but I'm gonna, rock this wave. I will adapt. I will learn new tools. I will work on employer branding if needed. I will adjust. And again, because the main thing is because we are doing really nice job. Our job is actually something that can really help, companies and candidates, and we are really helping to a lot of people out there. So it's not for nothing. It should be main motivator. I mean, as in the book of Simon Sinek, like start with why. I think we always need to start with why.
By the way,
yes. So. We need to know our why, and after that, adjust to everything that's coming. I really feel that not just our field, every field will be changing constantly. Yeah. There are no jobs that like our parents used to do, sitting in one company for 20, 30 years and then go to retirement. It's not going to be like that. And I think with, Gen Z coming and all other generations, there will be even more pressure on us to adjust faster. They just think differently, and
I still can't get my head around TikTok. And I'm only 30, so I mean, exactly. I've got no hope. I mean, I will say the only thing I do like the fact. So I follow Matthew McConaughey on various social platforms. I really like him. I like his mentality. But he put up this thing the other day that he doesn't like phones. I think Simon Cowell also put this on the podcast before. He also doesn't like phones, and he's like, I want dials and knobs and in like their cars and stuff. Doesn't like the touch screens. And I'm thinking, well, at least I don't respond to that. Like, at least I'm on the generation phone. That one I can deal with. But yeah, the next wave, I'm screwed.
Yes. That's true, and I think we are somehow a generation that's in between. I would say we still have memories of dial phones, but we need to adjust to this. So, yeah.
You know full well you're getting a call through when the internet starts spotting out and making weird sounds on your TV or your games console. But yeah.
Exactly.
And you mentioned growth mindset. If anyone doesn't know what that is, there is a psychologist who obviously don't. Correct if I'm pronouncing the surname. It's Carol Dweck, right?
Yes, I heard.
Okay, cool.
I heard them.
It is a phenomenal book. Phenomenal, life-changing if you've never read it before.
No.
I mean, it is a brilliant book. That's where growth mindset comes from. She's a psychologist who originated the idea and, explains how you have a fixed mindset, growth mindset. But we're all on a spectrum of this. And it's, just because you're fixed in certain things doesn't mean you cannot move to growth mindset. And like I said, I read that book about, I think 4 or 5 years ago, and it is life-changing. Because you always have this outlook of, okay, I can try and learn this. I can try and adapt. I can grow this. And she's brilliant, but I could definitely be mispronouncing the surname. But Carol, exactly. Dweck.
Yes. I heard about her, definitely. I mean, I think we need to do it. We need to go into that direction. Otherwise, we are going into regression.
Yeah.
There is no there is no way that we stay in the same position. So we need to adjust. But I would say, start with your why and really. We are doing amazing work out there. Like, we are always gatekeepers of of the company values, culture as well. So it's a lot on us.
Yeah.
So first wave of change will always hit us first, of course. But I would like to say that I believe that strongest will remain there, and it's worth
Yeah.
of a ride.
And I think we're also going through that change now where the TA community, I've said this numerous times on a podcast, people are listening thinking, shut up, Eden, you've said it before, but I keep iterating it, is that the TA community has been hit so hard the last few years. It's phenomenal to see it all come together. You're an internal specialist, I'm an external specialist, and we're happy to have a conversation, whereas before we might have been seen as an us versus them. I've got an interview next week with a fractional talent acquisition specialist, same thing. Before he would be my competitor, but now he's an ally. These are the sorts of things that I think band our industry together, is that it doesn't matter what
Yes.
part of it you're in, the focus is the company and getting the most for the company. And that's, I think the last few years have really highlighted that more than ever before. So although it's been a terrible time, I am super thankful that it's happened, because it means that as an industry we can move forward. I do want to ask one final
Yes.
question, if it's okay. And
Yes. Go ahead.
where do you see the TA role in 5 years now? In 5 years time?
Oh.
Here's
It's
the
hard.
futurist hat needs to go on.
Yeah, 5 years from now, where do we see ourselves as too? So I think we will be still riding some wave. I hope a calmer one. But as mentioned, we will have to adjust a lot. So it will be a role that we'll have to where we will have to learn a lot of other things and follow all trends, constantly educate ourselves, educate others. I believe that we will need to connect more as a community and support each other. It's happening now, but it will be more, I see, in the future. So I still believe that we will be mediators and still keeping companies interests and needs, and be like someone who promote culture and bring something new there. But we can do it only if we are also motivated to learn and grow personally. So I really don't believe that we will that role will be able to stay. You are just hired in one company doing 9 to 5 work, recruiting, sourcing, having some interviews, and that's it. It will have to be more. So going more also into partnering direction and more into strategic direction with constant education and learning. So that's how I see us. And I would really like to believe that in 5 years from now, we will look at this time and say, okay, it was tough, but this is what we learned, and this made our role even more stable at the market. So,
And I think also those who relish in times like this, you said the strongest will prevail. I look at the seniors that I speak to now as the future leaders of our industry. And if they all had the same growth mindset mentality as yourself, and they're sitting there looking at adjustments in the industry, disruptions in technology with, okay, we can adjust to this. Like, what more do you want from industry leaders? If that is the type of character that's tackling at head on and is the most senior that we have at the moment, that is the best people to learn from. So in 5 years' time, I'll ask you how it's gone, and we'll see how close to
same.
you are. But I appreciate you for joining and for sharing your insights. And like I said, for giving it a completely different spin on the podcast, and for re-highlighting for what the role is and why we have such an important role. So thank you for joining. If people want to say hello to you, they want to find you, where can they get to you?
They can get me on LinkedIn. I am out there definitely. Otherwise, maybe in Berlin, somewhere running, definitely.
All right. Well,
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend our listeners to follow random people called Jasna running. That gets a bit weird. But if there
Yes.
are, I mean, the easiest thing on LinkedIn, I'll find, I'll put your LinkedIn URL into the footnotes of this. And if people want to connect, learn more, join a running club with you, whatever it is, you never know if they're in Berlin. But
Yes.
thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really a pleasure. Really nice talking to
Appreciate it.
you.